So I think it's fair to say that Cartman has committed a lot of crimes. Like, a lot of crimes. So I thought it would be fun to try to figure out exactly how much time Cartman would serve in prison were he to be found guilty of every crime he's committed. A few things to note before we begin though. He is being charged as an adult because he clearly has the mental capacity of an adult and it's only fair. I'm only counting each individual crime he has committed, so this doesn't account for the multiple counts of each crime he's committed, as that would take an insane amount of time to try to find each instance of every crime he's committed, so yeah, this is just to simplify it. Now, obviously this will skew his sentencing a bit to be lower than it should be, so to try to make up for this, each crime he's charged for, he is guaranteed to receive the maximum sentence, so hopefully that makes up for the years that will lack from multiple counts of each crime. With that being said, this estimate is still probably on the lower side, so you could take this as sort of the minimum amount of time that he'd serve. Oh yeah, and I use Colorado laws for most of these crimes, besides the ones that are not committed in Colorado, so if the sentencing seems different than what you know, then that's probably why. And I'm sure I missed a few crimes, so let me know what I missed in the comments. Alright, let's do this. How long would Cartman's prison sentence be? Now, the worst crime that Cartman has committed by far is leaving his internet browsing history completely exposed and unprotected. To combat this, he should have used today's sponsor, Private Internet Access VPN. Private Internet Access is a VPN app for almost any device, including Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, Linux, and many more. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and it works by changing your IP address and rerouting it through an encrypted tunnel, therefore hiding your online activity from your internet service provider, network administrator, government censors, or really just anyone trying to snoop around in your info. Is there a show or movie that you love that's not available on your streaming services due to where you're located? Well, I have great news. With Private Internet Access, you can simply set your location to somewhere it is available, and just like that, you're watching your favorite shows and movies. Private Internet Access is the most customizable VPN on the market, providing you with tons of different options to make your VPN experience truly your own. They're also the most transparent VPN provider with over 30 million downloads. One thing that I like a lot is that they have a no logs policy, meaning that they don't record or store any of their users' data, and it's been proven several times in court. They promise a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it out completely risk-free. And if you use my link, which will be in the top of the description, you'll have access to complete digital privacy for less than $2 a month, as well as 4 extra months for free. So what are you waiting for? Go click the first link in the description and sign up right now, risk-free, and start protecting yourself when browsing the web. And another huge thank you to Private Internet Access for sponsoring this video. Now, there are actually quite a few examples of Cartman murdering someone, but all of them are a little bit iffy as to whether or not it could be considered actual murder, but the one that you can argue is in The Last of the Mohicans when he clearly murders some Mexicans. So, in Colorado, first-degree murder carries a life sentence. In Cow Days, Cartman suffers a severe concussion and believes he is a Vietnamese prostitute. He does the things that prostitutes do. In Colorado, this carries a max sentence of 6 months. For vandalism, there's obviously a ton of examples of this, but we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he's only vandalized between $750 and $1,000, which classifies as a Class 1 misdemeanor and carries a 1.5-year sentence. For manslaughter, he accidentally murdered Kenny whenever he was having hallucinations on Ritalin, and in Colorado, manslaughter carries a maximum 6-year sentence. The most obvious example of this is the fact that he intentionally got Scott Tenorman's parents killed. Now, I couldn't find much information on how exactly Colorado would rule this, but in my mind, this is similar to a murder for hire plot, and in that case, Cartman would be charged with first-degree murder, giving him a life sentence. This one was kind of hard because I'm not sure if it's technically illegal to talk someone into doing this, but Cartman has done that, and based on some other cases I found, people have been sentenced to about 1.5 years for this. Now, Cartman has developed a habit of hitting various animals with a stick and just being generally abusive towards animals, but because it's not severe abuse, it likely would fall under a misdemeanor animal abuse charge, which carries with it a 1.5-year sentence, as well as 1-year mandatory parole. Once again, he has done this many times. The first one I think of is when he tried to kill Kyle with a wiffle bat, obviously unsuccessfully, and in Colorado, attempted murder carries a max sentence of 48 years. So Cartman committed the genocide of many different groups, including Jews and hippies, while riding on the back of Cthulhu. The death penalty has been abolished in Colorado, but because this is such a severe crime, this would likely be a federal charge, and there is a federal death penalty for circumstances like this. So most likely, he would be receiving the death penalty. Now, I'm referencing the South Park fandom Wikipedia for this list, and they have enforced cannibalism on here, obviously referring to when he made Scott Tenorman eat his own parents. But interestingly enough, cannibalism technically isn't illegal in the United States as long as you can somehow get human meat legally. And during my research, I couldn't find anything about the legality of forcing someone else to be a cannibal, so this one is kind of just a question mark. Of course, there are tons of examples of this, but the one that would get in the most time is when he attacks Mint Berry Crunch in the Coon and Friends trilogy. This is because he uses those finger blades, and in my opinion, that constitutes as a deadly weapon, and assault with a deadly weapon carries a maximum sentence of 32 years. Now, he is shown to be in possession of crack cocaine in the episode Crack Baby Athletic Association, but most likely this is a misdemeanor amount, so this would carry with it a 1.5-year sentence in the county jail. In Scott Tenorman Must Die, Cartman stole the dead bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Tenorman from the crime scene. This carries with it a 1-year sentence in the county jail. Cartman has obviously stolen a ton of things over the years, and I know I said I wouldn't do this, but for this one I decided to just lump all the crimes together and make it one big theft charge, so this would give him a max sentence of 24 years. These three all come from the same crime, so I lumped them together: violation of a firearm law, armed robbery, and threatening with a deadly weapon. He racks up all three of these charges when he tries to rob Kyle of his quote-unquote Jew gold that he has around his neck. And obviously he did not obtain that firearm legally, so therefore he's violating firearm laws, which carries a 1-year max sentence. Armed robbery carries a 16-year max sentence, and threatening with a deadly weapon carries a 3-year max sentence. Now, I know that technically he wasn't the only one to start the fire, as it was him, Stan, Kyle, and Kenny that did it all together, but for this one we're just assuming it's just him, and this carries a sentence of 12 years. So grave robbing implies they are stealing things of value from a grave, and in this situation they just took Kyle's grandma. However, this implies another charge of abuse of a corpse, which carries with it a 1-year sentence. While he was initially charged and sentenced for a hate crime, if you remember the episode, it was actually overturned at the end of the episode, so therefore he's not guilty of this. There are several examples of this, most of them with Butters, and the main one I think of is in Casa Bonita when he locks him in the bomb shelter. This carries with it a maximum sentence of 24 years. You may remember Cartman performing a liposuction surgery on Butters, and obviously he did not have a license, therefore this carries a sentence of 1 year. There are several examples of this, including taking an entire P.F. Chang's hostage, as well as planting bombs on a hospital, and obviously, because this is terrorism, this would be considered a federal crime, giving him most likely the death penalty. When he leads the South to a victory in the new Civil War, his troops can be seen doing everything from looting to pillaging to attacking civilians, all of which are war crimes. Therefore, this would be classified as a federal crime, and he would likely once again be sentenced to death. So you may remember that Cartman intentionally gave Kyle AIDS as a way to get back at him for Kyle thinking the whole situation was funny. And upon doing research into this, there are certain areas where it is illegal to transmit HIV to people, and I also discovered that this is a very controversial topic, and I'm just going to leave it alone and not talk about it anymore, so let's just say he's not guilty. Now, this actually took place in Somalia, and obviously the laws are different there, so I couldn't find anything specific on the maximum sentencing or anything like that, but I did find a case in which a man from Somalia was charged with piracy and sentenced to 33 years, so that's what I'm going to do. Cartman breaks into a lot of places, most notably Kyle's room, and breaking and entering carries a sentence of 6 years. This one's kind of a stretch, but he has taken his mother's credit card several times to pay for things, and technically speaking, this would be classified as credit fraud and identity theft. Therefore, credit fraud carries a 1.5-year sentence, and identity theft carries a 6-year sentence. When he becomes the leader of his own church, he tells his followers that they are paying to support the church, but in fact, he was just taking the money and using it on himself. This is embezzlement, and it carries a 3-year sentence. Not too sure about the legality of this one since it was on a racetrack, but he did in fact cause a hit and run that killed people, therefore he would be served a 12-year sentence. He ran from the police in his Ford Bronco in a very, very slow speed chase, and this would give him 3 years. This is seen in Crack Baby Athletic Association, however, it would be considered minor or no injury, therefore he would only get 1.5 years. When he consumes an unholy amount of Vagisil without paying for it in the shop, this would still be considered a petty theft, therefore only 6 months. He's done this several times, but most distinctly he did it to Captain Hindsight in Coon and Friends, and this carries with it a 6-year prison sentence as well as 3 years of mandatory parole. We need to respect his authority, of course, and because of that, he will get a 1.5-year sentence. He technically committed fraud whenever he won the gift certificate after pretending to be handicapped in the Special Olympics. Therefore, this would be considered petty fraud, and he would receive about 6 months. Yes, he did in fact force sexual acts upon Butters, and this would be considered sexual assault without force, which carries an 8-year prison sentence, and he would have to become a registered sex offender. Cartman was just suing everyone for no reason, and this would be considered contempt of court, which gives you a 6-month sentence. So I couldn't find much on vigilantism. I think it's a crime in many places, but I don't know if it's a crime in Colorado, as I couldn't find anything, so I guess he's innocent. This one is also kind of slander, as he said a lot of false things about Wendy in order to try to get her in trouble, and this would give him a 6-month sentence. Yes, hitchhiking is actually illegal in Colorado. Not only is it illegal, it carries a 2-year maximum sentence, which is kind of insane, but yeah. Despite being one himself, he did technically produce and possess cheese pizza. If you don't know what I mean when I say cheese pizza, just look at the initials and I'm sure you'll figure it out. But because he was technically producing the cheese pizza, this gives him a 12-year sentence as well as 3 years of mandatory parole. Alright, and now for the moment you guys have been waiting for. We've listed all the crimes he's committed as well as the sentencing for each of the crimes. So let's go ahead and tally everything up and find out exactly how hard that gavel is going to come down on him. Let's get a drum roll. And on account of being found guilty of each and every single one of these charges, you are hereby sentenced to 3 federal death penalties, 2 life sentences, 273 years in prison or jail, 7 years of mandatory parole, and you have to become a registered sex offender.
Lame.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Did you guys know that I have a Patreon? Well, I do. You can go support it if you want to. You don't have to, but if you do, you can get early access to videos and you can get like access to private Discord servers with me. Speaking of Discord servers, did you know I have a Discord server? You can go check it out in the description of the video. Click that link and join and just come chill. So yeah, that's it. Later, guys.